Welcome to episode 230 of CppCast, the first podcast for C++ developers by C++ developers. I'm your host, Rob Irving, joined by my co-host, Jason Turner. Jason, how's it going today?
I am doing all right. Rob, how are you doing?
I'm doing okay. Got some stuff going on around the house, but nothing I need to bore anyone with today.
Oh, come on, not like what was the saga of the dishwasher that was broken for months or whatever?
So, similar to that. If something breaks in your toilet, you can usually fix it, like a flapper needs to be replaced, things like that.
Yeah.
I've done that plenty of times, but this time the porcelain tank actually physically cracked down the middle and dumped some water in our bathroom floor, so that was nice. Dealing with that right now.
Toilet replacing is always a fun job as well. Are you doing it yourself?
No, we're having a plumber come tomorrow.
I did actually do all of our bathrooms, replace them with more updated, like good flushing, lower water toilets a few years ago. The main difficulty was figuring out how to dispose of the old toilet.
Yeah, that sounds like that would be a bit of a job. Yeah.
Yeah, just break it up in pieces and like once a week throw it away in the piece of trash.
In small paper envelopes.
Pretty much.
Okay. Well, at the top of our episode, I'd like to read a piece of feedback. We got this tweet from Connor Hoekstra at Code Report, and we got a lot of replies to this tweet saying, awesome CppCast episode with Sarah Raz. The CppCon was my favorite talk of CppCon. Find it here. And I'll put a link in the show notes for this. For those interested in hearing more about Circle from Sean Bax, the rival C++ podcast, CPP Chat, had him on a couple episodes ago. And I replied to this, I don't consider the CPP Chat to be a rival. We're all friends here in the C++ podcasting community. Right, Phil?
Well, about that.
You've been in.
Yeah, of course, we're all friends here.
Yeah. Well, we have several guests to go to today, so we'd love to hear your thoughts about the show. You can always reach out to us on Facebook, Twitter, or email. But let's get to introducing all of our guests today. So start off with Phil. Phil's been on the show 3.5 times before and hopes to make it to another round number someday. He's the original author and occasional maintainer of the test framework Catch 2, co-host of Rival/Parallel C++ podcast.
See, Rival.
Yeah. Organizer of the C++ London user group and C++ on C conference, regular conference speaker, workshop giver, and all-around nice guy. And he's a developer advocate at JetBrains, primarily for their C++ tools, CLion, and ReSharper C++. Phil is EastConst, East End Functions, and believes in monads. How you doing, Phil?
I'm okay, thank you.
Okay.
I don't believe monads exist, actually.
Well, it depends what exists means.
It's like
okay.
Club.
Well, we got to introduce other guests before you get on a tangent, Jason.
No. But I do want to ask, though, how did you count 3.5 times?
I've been on 3 full times, and then I was on the Lightning podcast, I think, at CppCon.
Okay.
Not last year, the year before.
I was wondering if that was the case. I couldn't remember. All right.
Okay. We also have Adi Shavit. Adi Shavit. Adi is Chief Science Officer at Swap and an entrepreneur, speaker, consultant, software architect, and a computer vision and machine learning expert specializing in real-time applications. Adi is the founder of the Core C++ user group in Israel and one of the organizers of the Core C++ 2020 conference taking place in May 25th to 27th. How are you doing, Adi?
I'm doing wonderful, thank you. Thank you for having me back.
Yeah. And last but not least, we have Fred Tingaud. Fred is a principal software engineer at Murex, where he maintains the C++ UI and front-end APIs. He's also the creator of QuickBench.com, co-organizer of CPPP conference, co-host of Paris's C++ meetup, and organizer of Include. His interests range from code efficiency and readability to UI ergonomics. How you doing, Fred?
I'm doing good. Thank you.
So there is perhaps a parallel that our listeners may have noticed that all 3 of them are co-runners of conferences or runners of conferences and local meetups,
Yes.
which I had not actually considered until just that moment that you all actually have your own local meetup, which may very well help with our conversation.
Yeah. So, Jason, you had this idea a while ago that, all these smaller C++ conferences SCP Russia, and we thought it'd be interesting to talk to some of these conference organizers about what that process is like, right?
Yep, definitely. I think it's And it seems like if you go to the ISO CPP conference list, it looks like we've got some new conference like every other week popping up or something like that.
Yeah.
It's actually difficult to find a date, a slot to put your conference in.
Yeah, and on that note, and well, I don't know if it's worth getting into at this exact moment, but it seems like you all are pretty much on top of each other this year. Is that right?
More so than last year. Although last year there were two conferences, and maybe Fred should talk about this actually, on the same day, which I think we've avoided this year.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think we all had inside information and tried to warn each other about potential dates. So we try to make sure we don't step on each other's toes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, we
Yeah,
still
we-
have a whole interview to get into, but is there a mailing list that people who are interested in, starting their own conference can join so they know what dates you're looking at?
If there is one, I'm interested in it.
Right.
I don't know of a mailing list, but there is a channel on the CPP Lang Slack for community leaders. So if you're a community leader, you can join that, and we actually have a monthly call and discuss these sort of things.
Oh,
So
okay.
if you're thinking of organising a conference, or you're running a meetup, or you just want to know what that process is like, that could be worth a look. I'm not sure if it's invite only, or you probably just need to ask
Yes.
somebody who's already there.
It's invited.
There is a public channel called local groups, so you can start there, and
Yeah.
if you ask there, someone will send you an invite.
Okay.
Yeah, plus there's a user groups channel on the Discord, the hash include Discord as well.
Okay, well, we do want to quickly go through a few news items. The three of you feel free to comment on any of these, and then we'll start talking more about conference running, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so this first one is a blog post on Conan, and it's announcing the new Conan Center with improved search and discovery. So we haven't talked about Conan in a while, but that is one of the C++ package managers, the one that does distribute binaries, and it looks like they've done some work to better integrate into JFrog Artifactory, and everything should be more searchable now. So it sounds like it's a nice set of improvements, right?
Yeah, I mean, one of Conan's strengths is that it's distributed. You can set up your own binary server for inside your organization or whatever. And it's also kind of one of its weaknesses, where if I'm just wanting to use Conan packages in my project, sometimes the discoverability of what packages are available is poor. And this looks like it's going to make it better.
Oh, okay.
There might be a hiccup along the way there, though, where they combined their bin tray repository with Artifactory. So you get both of the results up at once. And as we currently speak, and they may fix this by now, because I know they're looking at it, if you do a search, it brings up results from both with no way to distinguish between the two unless you click through to them. So the first thing I did, of course, was search for catch 2. And you just get two identical results in. So hopefully they're going to fix that and make that a bit clearer. There is an ongoing ticket about it.
It does look, well, you have catch 2 with a lowercase c, catch with a
Yeah.
capital C, and catch 2 with a capital C.
Yes, but I believe one of them is in Artifactory and one is in bin tray.
Well, one of them has 662 downloads. The other two have none. So I'm going to go with the one that looks like it's being used, I guess. But yes, you're right. Yeah.
It's the same version.
Phil, for our listeners, what is bin tray exactly, and how does that relate to Artifactory and Conan?
I am completely out of my depth. I've not really used it, but from what I gathered, it's what they were using to begin with to host binaries.
Okay.
Catch's case, it's a single header, but for most libraries, you build a binary, they'll actually host the binaries there, just to make it a bit easier. And then that's also what Artifactory provides as well. So I believe they're going to be moving across to that, but I may have got some of that wrong, so don't take my word for it.
Okay.
Okay, this next thing we have is a post from the Visual C++ blog about inliner improvements, the zipliner, which I thought was an interesting name for it. Yeah, everyone have any thoughts on the improvements going on here?
Just a general yay, Visual Studio keeps getting better.
Yeah.
So it
I'm
looks
just
like
always
there's-
optimistic.
What?
Go ahead, Phil.
No, I was just going to say, it looks like they they're mostly just changing the time at which optimization is going to occur so that they can do more code generation before they start optimizing it at a later stage to get more of the total view of what's going on before they optimize.
Okay. But Adi, it sounded like you
what were you
said
saying, Adi?
you're
I
pessimistic.
just said I like to be optimistic that the compiler is probably going to do a better job than I am. And if they find more cases where they can do a better job than they did before, then that's even better.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
Was there a recent tweet or article or something that asked how has programming changed in the last 20 years? And I didn't respond to it, but my immediate thought was our optimizing compilers have gotten 20 years better.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, and then the last thing we have is a Meeting C++ community survey, and just wanted to put this out there so that our listeners should go and respond to the survey. It's mostly questions about, what types of tools you're using with C++, IDEs, unit testing, frameworks, things like that. And, I'm interested to see what all of the final results look like.
And it seems to just give you one question at a time.
And you have to
Yes,
answer a riddle that you have to do in your head.
Yes. It looks like you only have to do the riddle once. I think once you've gotten past the first question, it doesn't give you a new riddle with each question. But I do kind of wish that you could, get like 5 or so questions on a page. Going one at a time is a little bit lengthy.
I think if you're logged in on the site, you don't get that riddle at all.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I didn't have
okay.
it.
Is it
I
still
didn't
one at a
Consider
time?
logging in.
Still
Yeah.
one at a time, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you
I
have
saw it on
one
my
question.
phone. Okay.
Yeah, you have the question, then the answer, which I appreciate because I spend more time reading the answers than answering the question.
Right.
Some very interesting trends emerging already.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's a few of the questions there I have a personal interest in, like test frameworks and IDEs and things, and they're already giving me some valuable feedback.
Lots of people using Catch?
Actually, yes, more than other surveys have said, actually. So Google Test obviously is the number one framework according to the survey. Catch is coming in at number 2 now. Obviously, it's still fairly small numbers, and maybe it's a self-selecting audience to some extent as well. But, more interesting data.
Cool.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's get to talking more about conferences, starting with local conferences. I guess just to start off, and we can ask this question to everybody, what motivated you to make a new C++ conference? And I guess we'll start with Phil.
Well, you're kind enough to give some of these questions in advance. So I've made some notes, and I've got I've got pages here, so I'll try and pick out some highlights.
Pages? I didn't bring enough to drink for this.
Yeah, how long have you got? Like the other organisers here, I run a user group. I started that first, and in particular in London, there was already a user group that had C++ content. That was the ACCU London user group, which is still running. Great user group. If you're in London, you should come along to that. But it wasn't only for C++ content. And I had heard a few people mumbling and saying that they wanted a pure C++ meetup, so I decided to make one. It was a breakaway success. And I just wondered if that would translate to a conference as well. I didn't do it straight away, left it a year or two, and then thought, it's time, let's do it. So, we gave that a shot, and that seems to have worked out really well too. And I have a good relationship with the ACCU. I'm actually on the committee. Love the conference, the ACCU conference as well. I was trying to be really careful not to step on the toes of the ACCU conference. And I think largely that's been a success. In fact, we are co-community sponsors of each other as well.
Okay.
All us conference organisers talk to each other. We have a friendly relationship, and try to support each other as well.
So you're willing to have a rival podcast, but not a rival conference.
That's right. Yep.
Oh, okay. Just making sure.
Okay. How about you, Fred?
So at first I was organizing meetups and everybody would come to me and tell me, hey, when is the next French conference? I would always answer that I didn't have time to organize that. But still, the idea kind of crept in. And at some point I went to see Joel and say, oh, how hard do you think it would be to organize a conference? And do you think it would make sense? And we talked about it and came with this idea of having multiple tracks with multiple approaches to the conference. And we thought that it was something unique. So we thought it had some meaning to do a new conference on top of all the other ones already existing. So that was it. Also, definitely argued.
Sorry.
Also we definitely did it with a way too short timeline because we organized it in 4 months or something like that. But you learn by doing.
Okay. How about you, Adi? What motivated you?
Well, actually, I'm a dreamer, When I wrote the first presentation for the first meetup meeting, I had this slide for the meetup goals, and then I had another slide with stretch goals, which went from the least ambitious to the most ambitious, and my last bullet was to do an international conference. So I had it on my to-do list from day one. Wow. Just because it seemed so fun, and it's meeting great people and giving people the opportunity to meet this amazing community. And I think about just under a year before we had our conference, one of our major sponsors, that was JFrog, we just talked about them earlier, came up to me and they said, okay, we had a very successful meetup. And they said, okay, let's do something bigger. And okay, let's do a conference. And said, okay, let's do a conference. And then things just rolled from there. So I guess I'm more of the kind of, I say yes to everything and, we just try it and see what happens. So, yeah.
I'm curious, since the three of you just explained the transition basically from meetup to conference, how many people did you have in your meetup? At what point did you say, my meetup is a success? This seems reasonable. You can start with, let's just go in the same order, Phil.
Okay.
I'm not sure I have a good answer for that. The meetup actually started out quite strong. We had over 100 sign-ups for the first few meetups straight away.
Wow.
Not every one of those came. And it's been between 60 to 100 people for most events. So I felt the groundwork was there. But also like with Adi, had my sights on an international conference. So I did hope to get people from obviously not just London, not just the UK, but particularly Northern Europe and beyond as well. And that certainly happened. In fact, I think we had about half of the attendees came from Europe last year.
Well,
wow. Okay. Fred?
Sorry, can you repeat the question because I was
That's
thinking
fine.
about the last point, but yeah.
Yeah, no, I was just curious how many people you had in your meetup approximately.
Yeah, sorry. So about 80 to 100 for each session.
Okay.
And we have a bit more than 1,000 people subscribe to the meetup on meetup.com.
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah, it seems like a lot.
But
yeah,
it's mainly because the conference is has been around for a few years and it just grows, because people who stopped going to the conference stayed logged and connected to it. So I don't know how many active members we have, but we managed to have between 50 and 80 people a month.
Okay.
except when there is a huge strike in Paris.
As
Then
was
they have
last
more
time.
free time.
And how often is that?
Well, ask Phil 100% of the time when he comes.
That's not true. I've been twice, and once there wasn't a strike.
Oh, okay, so half of the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
How about you, Adi?
Well, we usually get significantly less people. It depends. Our meetup kind of moves between different towns. So some of them might get about around 20 or 30 people, but we did have larger meetups with around from 60 to 80, maybe even 100 people. But we do have over 1,000 members on Meetup, and we know that many people want to come, and especially if companies would enroll their employees to come during the day to conferences. So we basically hedged our bets. We said, look, we know we can probably get in a big successful meetup, we can get around between 80 and 100 people. So if we plan our conference such that we get 120 or 150 people, which would cover the cost, and we should be fine. So that was kind of the risk we took, and we were very, very fortunate that a local community college in Tel Aviv, Jaffa Academic College, essentially donated their facilities for the conference for the first year. So that was probably one of the major expenses that was saved for our conference. And since it's all run by volunteers, we could just about cover the costs. And we did we sold out about 2 weeks before the conference. So that was a great success.
It sounds like from what I'm hearing from the three of you that with my meetup, I've got a little over 50 people generally coming, over 600 people on meetup.com. It sounds like I would be right on the threshold of starting a conference in the Denver area.
You do have one.
Yeah.
I don't think you need another one in Denver, though.
A slight problem with that, don't I?
Yeah, I think Denver is underserved by conferences.
Yeah. Between C++ Now and CppCon, yeah. All right. So I'll just scratch that one off my list. That's one less thing for me to worry about.
Yeah.
Can I make a follow-up point on the number of attendees at user groups, particularly for those just starting or thinking of starting a user group? And don't be put off by hearing people say, oh, yeah, we're getting like 60, 100 people or more.
Right.
There are a few user groups in like larger metropolitan areas that do get that, but most user groups are much smaller. 20 to 50 is actually a good number.
Right.
And there are many that have, 5 to 10, and they meet regularly and they have a great time. That's what it's all about. It's about creating that community. It's not about maximizing the number of attendees.
Is JetBrains still sponsoring user groups with raffle products?
They are, yes. And in fact, in that context, it is all about the numbers because you do need a certain number before you can get that sponsorship. But yeah, if you have a user group that's at least moderately successful, let me know and I'll sort out sponsorship for you.
I need to sign back up for that. I let mine drop a couple of years ago.
Right,
I think...
Yeah, go ahead.
I think when I started my meetup, one of the main encouragement that I got was from Jens from Meeting C++, where he told me that his own user group sometimes has 5 people. So I said, okay, Jens from Meeting C++ has 5 people in his meetup, then I can probably get 5 people to my meetup, and that's when I started the group. So yeah, don't be discouraged by. We frequently have 17 to 25 people at a meetup, and it's still very, very fun. And people get to know each other, and it becomes like a real close-knit, community of friends, even though people are from totally different places, different companies. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not convinced the number of people at your meetup and the number of people at your conference really match in any way.
Okay.
For example, I think people from the US are way more used to going to C++ conferences and conferences in general. Mm-hmm. So I would expect like more people to come up to a new conference. While in France, I'm sure this year we had to overcome the fact that people never went to a conference before in their life.
Wow.
And like they had no idea how to buy tickets through their companies and stuff like that. That's like one point. I'm sure there are other reasons. Like Meeting C++, they are very well known and people come from very far away. So yeah, it's probably not people from the meetup who come to Meeting C++.
So maybe I'm, overthinking this, but are you seeing perhaps like a cultural shift in France now for people being more open to coming to conferences and such?
We are trying to create it, at least.
Okay.
We'll see this year if we have more people coming.
That is another key thing, by the way, that we haven't explicitly mentioned. You have all three had exactly one conference, and are preparing for your second conference.
It's true.
That's
That
right.
is true.
And call for speakers is still open for Core C++.
Okay. Oh, well, so
Until
let's do
February
that now. Who
15th.
does? Your call for speakers is still open. Is it closed for the other two? Yeah.
No, it's
Oh.
still open for CPPP.
Okay.
It's closed for mine. Closed for C++
Okay.
and C.
And wait, exactly how many P's was that again, Fred? CP.
Uh,
No, I'm
It was
just kidding.
CPP.
Okay, so that's two that are still open. How long do our listeners have? Let's go ahead and mention that right now before that closes.
End of February for CPPP.
Okay.
Yeah, and Core C++ is until February 15th.
Okay.
So
Okay.
kind of the same.
At least
Just-
a month.
Just a month, yeah.
Yeah.
You should hurry up and submit, of course. Everyone.
Yeah. To both.
I always say this, you don't need to be an expert to speak at a conference. You actually become an expert by speaking at the conference. So I really encourage everybody to submit talks. And you know, what's the worst that can happen? I mean, if you don't submit, you're not going to get in for sure, right?
Right. I had a user group attendee. I just suggested to him, I said, the topic you're talking about needs to be a conference talk. And I suggested specifically C++ now because of the topic. And he was like, oh, but I don't have the project working yet. And I'm like, no, you don't understand how this works. Like you submit the thing that you want to do, and then you do it, and then you give the talk on it.
Totally. Exactly.
Yeah, I would recommend to have a good idea that you can do the project beforehand. But
Oh, yeah.
Oh, no, you know what? I'll go ahead and throw Ben under the bus because he was standing there with this. This is Ben Dean, just for the record. I know he listens, whatever. Ben said, he says, but even if you fail at doing the thing that you set out to do, then you have an interesting case study in why you failed. And it could still make a good conference talk.
Yeah.
There is risk to this. I'm not saying that everyone who's first-time speaker should go out and plan to just, make up something like this.
Oh, there is one really important thing that while we're talking and trying to encourage people to submit talks, is that most international C++ conferences will sponsor accepted speakers for travel and
Yes.
accommodation.
That is
So
actually a great point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, please
No,
continue.
we do, and well, you guys can testify to your own conferences.
Yes, I know Core C++ does, and I know C++ on C does. Is that right, Phil?
That is right, yes.
Okay, then Fred, it's on you.
yeah, we do too.
Okay. So both airfare and accommodations are covered by the conference for all three of you?
Yes.
With some limits.
right.
You're not buying first-class tickets from Australia.
Yeah, we try to avoid that.
These
Yeah,
are conference volunteer-based conferences, so we try to be reasonable.
All right.
Yeah, I have strict upper limits advertised clearly on the website, so all up front.
Yeah, I found your upper limit last year, if it's the same, to be generous for North America. And, I've spoken at two of these conferences. I haven't been to C++ Paris yet. And it worked out well for me with letting the conference sponsor my way. I totally appreciate that.
They are upper limits, though.
Yes.
They do encourage people to try and save a bit.
Yes.
Yeah,
So-
so
Go
far
ahead,
we
Fred.
don't have an upper limit. Last year we had one of the speakers had health issues, so we flight them with actually a more expensive ticket than the usual one. So far, all the speakers were really willing to find the cheapest flight and help us any way they want. So we hope it will stay this way and we'll not have to add an upper limit. Please
Yeah.
don't abuse it.
I don't
I should-
expect most people would try to abuse it, honestly.
Yeah.
I should clarify, actually, when I say there are upper limits, there is still some flexibility there. If someone
Yeah.
really can't get a cheaper flight, then we'll talk about that.
All right, cool.
Yeah. So
we actually had sorry, we scheduled the conference on the same week as the Eurovision Song Contest.
Yes.
Oh,
So we had a really tough time finding available hotel rooms, and we paid probably 3 times as much as we should have for the rooms. But so try not to have your conference on a big European. I think it's like the Super Bowl of Europe in terms of how many people come and watch. Yeah.
Of course, the organisers of the Eurovision Song Contest were saying, "Oh no, we scheduled it at the same time as Core C++."
On a parallel podcast, right?
That's right. A rival podcast, no less.
Right.
Okay, so I'm curious, if you're, running a meetup in your city, you don't have a local C++ conference nearby to go to, and you're interested in this conversation and maybe starting up your own C++ conference. What does that process look like? Like, what are some of the first things that the three of you all had to do? Is it finding a place where you could host the conference, talking to hotels? Is it talking to speakers? Like, what types of things you have to do to kind of get the ball rolling? I guess, Phil, start with you again.
Well, there's what you should do first, and there's what I did do first.
Good job, Phil.
I first decided, right, let's do this. Started looking for venues and actually found a venue. And then did what I should have done first, which is create a spreadsheet where I start just dumping every possible expense and cash flow that I can think of in there. And then leave a gap for venue costs to see what your budget's going to be like. And of course, it's not going to be anywhere close to the actual amount to begin with, but it's a starting point that you can then work from. And then, every time you get any more concrete figures or you can narrow your range or something, update that spreadsheet. And at some point, you start to get some confidence in it. And, there is this scary point where you actually start having to put deposits on things and pay for flights or at least book hotels and things like that. And at that point, you should be fairly confident. So I would highly recommend before you get to that point, you chat with, one of us or some of the more experienced conference organizers to try and get an idea, what sort of things have I missed? Because you will have missed things. And those things will cost money. And you need to make sure that you can cover it. So having that spreadsheet there and having it central to the whole process, especially early on, I think is absolutely essential. And I think I did get it in time. So we were okay.
That makes it sound like having a credit card with a fairly high limit at your availability, so you can float these costs until the payments start coming in. Would almost be a prerequisite.
Not necessarily. It may even be a disadvantage because you may start blindly paying for things before you've really fully thought it through. I think it pays to be a bit frugal to start with, a bit conservative, because if it's your first event, you really don't know A, what those costs are actually going to be in practice, and B, who's going to turn up and who's going to sponsor. You also need to find where that breaking point is, how many people you're going to need to come before you stop making a loss. It all sounds quite scary, but when you pass that point, it's such a relief. You think, actually, we might not actually lose money. So, and also, you can start selling tickets early on, even before you've announced speakers. Obviously, early bird tickets. It helps the first time if you're already sort of fairly well established in the community. So if you're not, you're going to have a harder time convincing people to come to a conference they've never heard of before, by someone they've never heard of before, with no speakers signed up. But once you get the first, you only need a few early bird ticket sales to start being able to put deposits on venues and hotels and things. So that can really go a long way as well.
Okay.
And then, right, maybe I should hand over to someone else, actually.
Yeah, Fred, do you have any thoughts on that?
So the problem is everything depends on everything else. You need to choose a venue, but you need to know how many people you want to put in the venue, and they will ask you what's your budget, but you have no idea what your budget is because you want to know which venue you have and how many days and stuff. So yeah, it's kind of a bootstrap of I tend to go to the people I know first, like talk with speakers I know and talk to companies I know and stuff, because the first time they will ask you question, you will not be able to answer. So if you're talking with somebody from a company that you already know and they trust you and they ask you what's the venue and you're like, I don't know, because I'm for the moment I'm just fishing for people to give me money to organize it, and I'll choose the venue depending on that. And so you cannot answer that to a big company that you don't know. So try to see with your network of people you know first. Start making the ideas, and as it becomes clearer how it's going to happen, you can see with everything.
So for the first year, you handpicked your speakers.
Yes.
Do you feel like that was a good way to really like bootstrap this and relieve some of the pressure?
Yes, definitely. We did not have enough time to create a call for paper and review everything and stuff. We would not have been able to do that, I think.
Okay.
Also, we had this weird 3 tracks with different subjects or different names, which I haven't seen anywhere else. So we wanted to be sure that everybody understood what we meant. With contacting speakers, it was easy. With a CFP, you have to. It can be confusing for the first time.
Okay.
Now we did some talk. We have some examples of talks that can go in each track. So it seems easier to create a CFP this year.
Just to back that point up, I mean, I did have a CFP for the first year, but I would absolutely say there are so many moving parts you need to keep on top of that you would often never have thought of before. Anything you can do without the first time, do without it.
Yeah.
Because everything else will overwhelm anyway. And then you can say, well, next year we'll look at that. And in fact, that's what I've done with some other things. So yeah, that's absolutely the right way to go.
Yeah, I think the first thing is get the venue. At least know that the venue is available. Even if you're paying for it, you need to know it's available. You need to make sure that you can tell people the dates. You can tell sponsors the dates. I think that one of the first things I did was actually talk to other organizers. So I've been to several conferences over the last 2 years, and I basically went up to all the organizers, to just talk to them, understand the way each of the conferences work. I got a lot of information from Phil and from the people running the various NDC conferences, and each one gave me different tips and different ideas and different approaches and what we should do. And I think maybe the most important thing is to find the early sponsors. Basically, you need to get as many sponsors as possible at the very early stages, and then you don't really need that a lot of credit because they get the special early bird sponsorship. And one of the things we did, and this is something I got from the NDC folks, is that every sponsor actually got a whole bunch of tickets, free tickets included with the sponsorship package. So this both fills up your conference with actual attendees, and it gives them something extra beyond just being a sponsor. So they're actually getting additional value for their sponsorship, and it encourages them to actually come and become sponsors early on. One other thing that we did that I don't know about other conferences is that we hooked up with a local nonprofit organization dedicated to providing open source software accounting services. So basically they handle all of the money, all of the credit cards. They have their own bank accounts, so they can give us some credit until the money comes in, and they did all the contracts. And I actually thought most of their interaction is going to be with the actual ticket buyers, the attendees, and it turned out that the biggest headache actually comes from the sponsors, because each one they have their own NDAs and their own contracts, and these guys want to pay after net 30 and net 60, and even after, like, I think the last attendees that we had, I think the last people who bought tickets actually paid just a couple of months ago. So those were the last people they had to chase down. So
you mean like a couple of months ago for the conference that was in May?
Yes.
Yes, exactly. So people, companies that purchase tickets, but they said they'll pay later. So yeah. So luckily for me, this NPO actually handled almost all of that trouble for us. So a lot of the headaches that Phil was talking about kind of fell on them, which was really, really nice for us. And additionally, we had a production company. So I don't know anything about running conferences. We just had this amazing lady, and we called her she was the conference czar. She basically bossed us around. She said, okay, you have to prepare such and such t-shirt design and sign designs by tomorrow or by the end of the week, and tell me how many, choose the menus for the lunch and choose the whatever, everything. And they took care of the rest. So if this is your first conference, it's probably a really good idea to try to find a production company, and they often handle all of the suppliers. So of course they take some kind of cut, but it's definitely, for us, it's worked really, really well in terms of, there was somebody telling us what to do on the logistical side. So that was really helpful. And we actually started a lot of this just 3 or 4 weeks before the conference for various reasons. So yeah.
Did either Fred or Phil, did you use a production company?
I wish I had. Now that I know about it.
Sorry, yes, we were talking over each other. Go ahead, Fred, and then Phil.
Yeah, I said I wish I knew it existed.
Oh, okay, so you didn't even know it was an option.
No, yeah.
Okay.
No, I didn't use a production company. But it's not just me running the conference. Actually, in a partnership on this with my wife, as it happens, who's really good at organizing things, but doesn't know anything about the technical side. So that's like quite a nice, clear demarcation of responsibilities. But she also knows nothing about conferences in the C++ or tech world. So I've also had to teach her a lot of that, bearing in mind I've not done it myself. So that's been quite fun. to use a euphemism. But we've definitely learned a lot, but it's worked. I think we got quite lucky in some respects, like Adi was talking about hassles with sponsors. We didn't really have any of that. In fact, I had it on the to-do list, start contacting sponsors, outreach. Before I had a chance to get to that point, sponsors were coming to me.
Whoa.
Wow.
And they all paid, pretty quickly. So that was actually, that worked out really nicely. It could have gone badly, but we got lucky on a number of fronts. So I do have to put some of it down to luck, but we definitely learned a lot in the process as well. It does a lot of work.
Would the three of you recommend going to the companies you currently work for to sponsor? I know Phil, I'm pretty sure JetBrains sponsored your conference, but that's what JetBrains does regularly, right?
Yeah, mine too.
Oh, for yours too as well. Okay.
Yeah.
So so this is my blanket question: was there any conflict of interest, or is this like highly recommended thing to do to go to your company?
I did, and I'm very happy that Murex definitely helped with the first CPPP.
Okay.
So I'm very interested in the project, and they were the one when I said go see people you know. Clearly, they helped a lot because they asked me question, very basic question, and I had no idea how to answer. I would have been very bad if it were anybody else but these people, because they really wanted to help.
Okay.
Help me with that. Just going back on the production company and stuff like that we were talking just before. Also, one thing that can be very important is the venue, how professional they are. We went with a very professional venue used to conferences like that because I also visited other venues that were very, very nice, but were not technical conferences venues per se. And they started asking me questions like, are you sure you need a screen in each of the rooms? And stuff like that. And if it's your first conference, and you end up and realize that they didn't put screens in the rooms or they didn't put sound or anything, it can be very, very bad.
Wow.
So I would say go with a venue that knows how to work with conferences.
A good point. We had we had to argue the video production company. We said, aren't you going to tape the HDMI output? And he said, no, it's okay. We're going to just send us the slides. And then one of our speakers was Hannah Dusovika.
Hannah.
Yeah.
Hannah. Everybody knows Hannah. So, he actually had to edit those animated slides somehow from a PDF she produced. And he told me, next year I'm definitely going to put the extra hardware to record the HDMI.
Yes.
Because I've never had a conference like this.
Yeah, for me as well. Like, you want my slides? Okay, they're not going to do you any good, but you can have them if you want them.
Yeah, but have you seen Hannah Dusikova's talk? Because she has physics in her slides.
Yeah,
you have collisions and physics, so there is no way you do the same thing twice and you don't have the same result.
Right.
It's absolutely impossible to record that.
Just to back Fred's point up about making sure you know who you're working with in terms of the venue and what staff they have. I have to be careful what I say, but the venue that we use, they had their own tech staff. And they were pretty good. But they clearly hadn't really worked with the sort of conferences that we put on. But they were fine with screens in every room, but they had maybe different expectations about what they should look like, how big, resolution of projectors and things. And some of the equipment didn't quite work as smoothly as we would like. So this year now, we're going to try to bring much more of that in ourselves from a third-party company. And I think that should hopefully smooth over some of the issues we had. I mean, it wasn't a disaster, but it could have gone a bit smoother if we hadn't relied quite so much on the venue knowing what they were doing in the context of the type of conference we're trying to do. So yeah, even if they talk the talk, you do need to double check that they know what they're getting themselves into as well.
Yeah, as a speaker, totally believe all of that. You never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, even with real pros like we had, they were still like, we have this app that you download on your presenting machine and it records the slides. I was like, no, I'm not going to ask every single speaker to download this app. You have no idea what kind of machines they have. And they were like, no, it works, even on Mac. No.
Does it work on Linux?
Yeah, exactly. Those Linux, like.
Yeah.
So yeah, C++ conferences are very, very special even for technical conferences.
Yeah. But I think you need some luck. I agree with Phil.
It helps.
Maybe beginner's luck, so I hope we're not running short this year.
So that's a good question. I mean, all of you must be working on your second year conferences. We talked about the call for papers being open for 2 of them. Do you find it's, easier the second time around as you're preparing for the second go of it, Phil?
Yes and no.
Okay.
In theory, I learned a load of stuff from the first year. There's lots of stuff we can reuse, or that's already done once and for all time. There's some churn on some things as well. But there was a lot of things, as I said earlier, things that you can put off that you don't absolutely have to do the first time. Like we had a call for speakers, but it was just run through Google Forms.
Mm-hmm.
And then I hacked together some scripts to pull that down into my own little database. And it was all held together by bits of string, which was fine for the first time. But the idea was always, let's do it properly next year. So there's all these things that I wanted to do the next year that we're now doing. So it's actually probably more work than the first one. But that's by choice, I suppose.
And you have the beta users of your tools, right?
Oh yeah. So I built my own call for speakers system that also has reviews built in, and I'm aiming to open it up as a platform at some point. And I actually already have my first early bird or early access customer Hope Eddie doesn't mind me saying that the core C++ call for speakers is run
No,
on.
I don't mind if people complain. Now I can say, okay,
You blame Phil, yes.
Yep.
That's generally a good idea to have it set up so that you can blame Phil if something goes wrong.
Yeah.
yeah, works for me.
Or if something goes wrong with mine, I can say, I did that for Eddie. Works both ways.
Anything you would like to add to this, how things go the second time around, Fred?
Well, this year we are doing 2 days instead of one. We are doing it during the week instead of during the weekend and stuff. But it's still simpler because we have 1 year instead of 4 months.
That's true.
Although it's becoming shorter and shorter as time passes. And yeah, I should hurry up a bit. But yeah.
Yeah, having the extra time doesn't help if you don't use it.
Exactly, yes.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah, we actually needed to find a new venue because the previous venue was too small. As I said, we sold out a couple of weeks before the conference, and we wanted to add another track, so we needed another large hall. So that took quite a while to finalize to find the new venue and to finalize the contract because we actually need to pay these guys. So we kind of started a bit late, but I think we're fine now. We're gonna put in some more effort in the upcoming weeks, and hopefully everything will run smooth. And we're already getting a lot of interesting speakers, and probably by the end of the last day, we're gonna get most of them.
Yeah, it's the 90-20, what is it, 80-20 rule, 90-10 rule?
80-20, yeah. 80% of the speakers submit their talks 20 minutes after the deadline.
Right. So, for people listening, I'm not saying delay to the last moment. Make these guys' jobs easier, but they're not turning off the website at that moment either, right?
Don't tell them.
No, that's a secret.
Yeah, it's a secret. Sorry, I didn't mean to say that.
There is another piece of inside information that might help people submitting talks, which is that for a lot of the call for speaker systems, the reviews are actually started in the order that talks are submitted. So particularly if they start reviews before the call for speakers closes. The earlier you get your review in, the more chance you're going to get reviewed by somebody earlier in the process. And anybody that's been on a program committee knows that you start out sort of really idealistic in your reviews. And as the deadline approaches to get your reviews done, you start to rush more and more. And it's like that principle with, don't end up before a judge just before lunch or something because they're rushing to, or they're hungry. You don't want to be one of those last talks to be reviewed because you're less likely to be seen favorably. That's all I'll say.
I would like to put in a feature request into your submission system, Phil, that you randomize the order in which these are reviewed.
I have randomized it for exactly that purpose.
Okay.
Yeah, Meeting C++ also randomizes because of that. Another reason to submit earlier is that we look at the proposals. And sometimes we notice things that are not clear or could be improved. It's possible that we contact people who did the CFP. And if they submit 20 minutes after the closing, we don't have time to send them a mail saying, oh, could you improve that point because we don't see if it's good or not.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a great point.
It seems like with a lot of conference systems, I submit my talk and then I find out you were accepted or you were not accepted, and here's the reasons why. And it sounds like, at least with some of you, that there's some possibility with your conferences that someone who submits early might get feedback saying, hey, we would kind of like to accept your talk, but we don't understand point B. Is that what you were saying, Fred?
Yes.
Okay.
It's probably not just point B.
Sure.
But sometimes... there was this person. I think she came to your podcast, Sabadbi, who said who talked at CppCon about a series of bugs she debugged,
Oh yeah.
And she was saying, yeah. So in your podcast, she said that she wrote something way too short, and she had a mail from CppCon telling her that it was too short, and could she please write a bit more about the subject?
Okay.
And she did, and she was accepted. That's kind of the things. So I'm not surprised that you are not contacted because like you did a few CFPs in the past. You know how it works. But sometimes you see that, clearly this person is writing their first CFP and they don't realize the level of detail expected from them or something like that. And in that case, you can just give them another chance if the subject seems interesting.
Okay.
Yeah, I made a couple of editorial comments like that. So it's not really part of the review process, but just to say, you might want to think about doing that a little bit differently. Just as I happened to notice some, I didn't look through all of them. What I had wanted to do this time, but it's been put off now till the next time, is to actually put in a real-time feedback system so you can, as a reviewer, go in and say, can we get more information on this? And that goes back anonymously to the submitter, and they have a chance to feed that back before the review completes. There's obviously some complexities to that. Didn't get it in this time, but that's definitely the plan for hopefully for the next time.
I feel like if your conference has the goal of getting new speakers or more diverse speakers or whatever, that could be hugely helpful for people who just are, unfamiliar with the entire process.
And people who don't have somebody they can talk to easily who goes to conferences.
Right.
But I'd say even for experienced speakers, I mean, I've done one or two talks before, but I still sometimes get rejected or even accepted, with caveats at a conference. And it would have been nice to have been able to respond to feedback earlier and say, that's a good point. If I just change that, and then it changes everything. But it is frustrating because I feel people's pain. I would like to change it for my own conference.
And I guess...
And everybody that uses my platform.
It only costs $100 per... No. I guess we should mention, Rob, for the sake of our listeners or viewers here, that we did have some audio problems with Adi, which is why you may not be hearing from him at the moment. He is still online. Don't know what the status is at the moment, though.
I'm fine. I can hear you.
Okay, you can hear us.
I think Adi might be back. Okay.
All I wanted to say was that we take into account many different aspects of the talk. So as Phil mentioned, if you're a new speaker, or Fred mentioned this, or the program committee takes into account many different aspects related to the talk. So don't think that if you haven't spoken before, your chances are somehow different, or even experienced speakers get rejected or not accepted is the more accurate term. But there are many different reasons why some talks are accepted. So I really encourage everyone, especially first-time speakers. We're always looking for new faces and new speakers because that's where all the new people come from and the new speakers. And so go ahead and submit.
Yep.
Okay. So to close this out, I was wondering if we could maybe go around one more time and ask if there's any kind of like closing piece of advice you might have for someone who is thinking about starting their own conference. Phil?
You can also pitch your conference while you're at it too.
Yeah, do that too.
So I put down in my notes the first answer to this question is don't. But I think, if you decided this is what you want to do, make sure you know why you want to do it. Because if it's just like, it seems like a good idea, that's probably not going to cut it. You need to be really determined to follow through on this. So, there's potentially financial risk. There's a lot of time investment. It's going to, take over your life for at least certain parts of the year. And that may be fine if you can justify it. But make sure you know why. And in particular, if your motivation is to make money out of it, then I go back to point one, which was don't. Very few people make lots of money from conferences. Many don't even break even. Particularly industry conferences often make a loss. And even if you do make money, you probably would have made more by putting that same amount of time into some other project. So make sure you know what you want to get out of it. That would be my main recommendation.
Good
Okay.
advice. Fred?
Yeah, I agree. Don't do it for money. It's definitely not a good idea. What would I recommend? Yeah, try to find what makes your conference unique, because there are more and more conferences, and you want yours to stand out among them. And so yeah, have something unique in it, a reason why people would want to go there, although there are all those other conferences already existing. Also, you should propose a talk to CPPP. And also, you should probably ask your company if they want to sponsor a conference, because that way you can go for free to the conference. And also, you help the community.
It's definitely good advice.
I forgot to plug my conference. Sorry, carry on. Obviously, the call for speakers is closed, but tickets are on the sale. And in particular, early bird tickets are still running. But that's going to stop soon, because hopefully within the next week or so, as we record this, so even less time by the time you listen to this, the schedule will be announced. And at that point, early bird pricing finishes. So now's your chance to get the cheaper tickets.
So your notion of early bird pricing is pay before you know what's going to happen, basically.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
and that makes sense, I think.
Yeah.
You're taking on some risk, you get something back for that.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, Adi?
Yeah. So I think one of the major things is talk to other organizers. Go on Slack, go to meet them at conferences. Everybody's super friendly and very helpful. And just talk to them, figure out, like Fred said, what can make your conference special, especially if it's in a place that people want to visit. Like people would ask me, I want to go to Israel. Are you going to have a conference? So if you're in some really nice place, that's a really big plus. Because many international speakers might be interested in coming. And just try to know your community. I wouldn't do it just wake up in the morning and without knowing who's around me, trying to go and do that. Try to know your community. Use some personal connections to try and find the first sponsors, whether it's big regular sponsors like JetBrains or JFrog, but also I think all of us on the program committee basically sent direct emails to companies that we work for or companies that we worked for and said, hey, look, we're having this conference. Why don't you come and become a sponsor? So try to use your network to get the sponsors and to get the word out, because there are a lot of what's called, dark matter programmers, and it's really hard to find them. So try to and use social media. I think this is really important. It's been really helpful for us. Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, I think, Instagram maybe. As many social media outlets as you can to get people to hear about your conference and try to interact. I do try to post on Twitter, on social media at least as we come close to the conference, at least once or twice a day, not more.
Okay.
So yeah.
I had the last plug. Go on Include's Discord. That's definitely the only place where I've seen some subject discussed at large about inclusivity for your conference. Lot of subject of inclusivity that I had never thought about before being on Include, and it really helped for the organization of the conference.
Okay.
Yeah, and you can go get a code of conduct from Include, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yes.
I think there is actually a conference pack for conference organizers too. So code of conduct, but also many other thoughts.
Oh.
Okay. Yeah, I had this bullet point of all the things you need to do, although I definitely need to update it now that I've organized actually a conference. But yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, the three of you, for coming on and doing this show with us. I know it was a different type of episode than our average CppCast episode, but these conferences are really important. It's how we kind of learn new things as a community. So I'm really glad that the three of you are running new conferences, and maybe some more will spring up after this.
Let's hope so.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thanks.
Bye-bye.